Come on! We got a soldier down!
Best way to hunt an animal is to track it. You gotta focus and see what nature's trying to tell you. If you look hard enough, you'll see the signs.
Hi there, I'm Ben and welcome. This is my Chasing the Platinum video for the PS4 exclusive Days Gone. In my Chasing the Platinum videos, I play through the games that I've chosen from start to platinum, getting every trophy from the game along the way, obviously. While doing this, I'll detail my experience with the game, including obtaining the trophies themselves, as well as just my general thoughts of the game. So at the beginning of this video, you saw a few examples of random glitches that I encountered while playing. If you watched or read any other reviews on Days Gone, you'll know that this game has its fair share of problems. The question is, did they affect my enjoyment or detract from the game at all? And the answer is, not really. A lot of them were quite entertaining to witness really, although there was one that was quite concerning. I climbed to the top of a mountain to find a collectible, and this is what awaited me. I couldn't reach the historical marker, which is a collectible. I mean seriously, what the hell is going on here? Luckily, you only need to find 75% of the collectibles in the game, which I'm thankful for, so I could just ignore this one and carry on. Considering the game's release was pushed back a few months for polishing reasons, I have to wonder how buggy the game was beforehand. Now Days Gone is nowhere near as buggy as say a recent Fallout game, but if you compare it to last year's big PS4 exclusive April release, God of War, which was damn near flawless, it seems pretty bad. Obviously that's not a fair comparison, as they probably did have different development times. They were in development for roughly the same amount of time of 4 years. Oh, I guess it is a fair comparison then. The studio behind Days Gone, Bend Studios, do have a pretty decent reputation, and for the most part what they've achieved with Days Gone is very commendable. Looking back at their catalogue of games, the last game they released was Uncharted Golden Abyss in 2011, which I'm sad to say I don't really remember much about. Apart from those stupid forced touch controls, which were because it was a release title for the Vita. But I am glad to report I will remember my experience with Days Gone, and that's in a positive way. I'll just mention a couple more negatives from the game, then it's all positives from then on, I promise. Choppy frame rate. Now this happened quite often, usually as I was riding away from a camp. Now I don't know whether this was because I was playing on a launch PS4, so it's super old now, or whether it's actually the game struggling. If you play this game on a PS4 Pro, you may not even experience this. I'd like to know actually, if you've played the game on a Pro, did you experience frame rate drops? Now the final complaint I have is the load times. I'm fine with the game having a long load time when you boot it up, but having a 5 to 10 second loading screen in between each cutscene and start of gameplay is just frustrating. At the end of some cutscenes, the camera even moves behind Deacon as if you're about to take control of him, but then a loading screen will kick in and you'll have to wait 3 or 4 seconds. Okay, so it may seem I'm putting Days Gone down and that I don't like it, but that's not the case. There's a lot to like about this game. Right, so now that that's out the way, let us begin properly. Days Gone, for those that don't know, is billed as an open world survival horror game. Think of a cross between Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead, when it was still good, and you're pretty much there. You play as Deacon St. John, not the name I would have chosen for a main character of a game, but sure. He was a nomadic member of a motorcycle club before the outbreak, and since the outbreak has become a drifter that rides around on a bike and does odd jobs for local camps. So not much has changed then. The world has though. Since an unknown outbreak happened, most of the world's population has become flesh-hungry cannibals known as freakers. Now the word zombie is not mentioned at all in the game, and that's for a good reason. They're not. Zombies are reanimated corpses. Freakers are people that have been infected when still alive. They still have animal instincts and move around in swarms. They work together and seem to behave as if controlled by a hive mind, like ants or bees. To be honest, they're a lot more scary than zombies. Deacon's lost his wife, literally. He has no idea where she is, but he presumes that she's dead as he hasn't heard from her since the outbreak, which happened 2 years ago. Now Deacon and his best friend and former club member Boozer are planning on travelling north to try and get away from everything, and that's where the story starts. Before I started the game I took a look at the trophy list and there was one that stood out to me right away. The Broken Road Show, for unlocking over 75% of the collectibles. That can't be right. I checked the list and sure enough there isn't one for finding 100% of them. This was very good news indeed. After looking over the list a bit more, it seemed as though there wasn't going to be anything difficult about this platinum. As opposed to Red Dead Redemption 2's list of do everything the game has to offer, it seemed like Days Gone was going to be an open world game that just invited you to sample what was on offer rather than forcing you to complete everything. There are lots of complete your first or defeat your first trophies. As Days Gone was marketed as a heavily story driven game, I think this sort of list makes sense. It allows you to freely play through the game and experience what the developers have created with regards to the world and the stories within it. I could tell this was going to be an enjoyable platinum to get. I didn't have a game plan as such, as it looked like none of the trophies were missable. So what I was going to do was just freely play through the game and just keep an eye out on a couple of trophies. Namely Farewell Drifter, which is for accumulating 10 minutes of drift time on your bike. You've Got Red on You for collecting 541 items from corpses, and Lend Me Your Ears for collecting 989 Freaker ears. If I've learned anything from trophy hunting in the past, it's that trophies like this can come back and bite you in the arse if you don't pay attention to them, usually ending up in lots of post-game grinding or farming. Happily though, when I started the game up and had a look at the pause menus, I found the trophies checklist. You can actually track each trophy's individual progress. I love it when games do this. So that was it, I was ready to begin my journey into the Oregon wilderness. Now I don't want to have to include a spoiler section in this video, so I'm going to keep the story details to a minimum because there's lots to spoil. Instead I'm going to focus on the gameplay portion of Days Gone. Just know that while Days Gone's story didn't grab me right away, it did after a few hours and it's definitely one worth experiencing. So the first thing you do in the game is ride the bike. If you watch this footage you can see me swaying from side to side. This isn't me messing around, I literally couldn't keep the bike straight. I don't know what was going on, but the way the bike handles just felt so alien to me. After about 20 or 30 seconds of weaving down the road I was able to figure it out, and riding around on the bike soon became one of my favourite things to do. For the first 2 hours or so you were slowly introduced to what the game has to offer, and I'm not just talking about the gameplay, I'm talking about the graphics too. This game looks stunning. If the game runs a little buggy because they spent extra time on making it look this good, I'm fine with that. Bugs can always be ironed out with patches after release. When I started out it was a nice sunny day, but as I progressed through the first mission it gradually began to get darker and started to rain. Eventually I entered a tunnel where the atmospheric lighting from my torch and the Molotov Deacon throws looked particularly impressive. Then as I emerged from the tunnel the rain had stopped but the ground remained wet. Soon after, a strong wind started that moved every bit of foliage from the tallest tree to the smallest blade of grass. After that weird weather happens where there are sunny patches but it's also raining. Then to top it all off it began to thunder and lightning. It all felt so real and natural and it all happened in the first 30 minutes of the game. Days Gone has one of the best dynamic weather systems I've ever seen in a game. When I realised there was a photo mode, that was it. Trophy hunting was postponed while I spent the next half an hour playing around with the organic light, and of course I took advantage of a few unfortunate body placements. They had just jumped us and tried to kill me, so it was only fair, right? During the first 2 hours I learned about the stealth mechanics, the crafting system, which works in a similar way to the one from The Last of Us. Unlike The Last of Us though, the world feels like it's full of resources. I was playing on normal difficulty, there are no difficulty related trophies by the way, but that may be different on hard mode. I never felt like I was struggling to find any materials, and that remained true for the rest of the game actually. I personally wouldn't describe this game as a survival horror game as some people have. I would say it's more of an action adventure game, more akin to something like the Far Cry series. I never felt like I was surviving, I could always just go to a nearby camp to fill up on fuel and ammo. Sorry, went off on a bit of a tangent then. As I was saying, I also learned about the friendly camps which house mechanics, gunsmiths and bounty collectors, where you can trade in freaker ears for camp credit. How they know the difference between the different type of freakers just by looking at their ears, I have no idea. Also, there's a skill tree upgrade system which is broken down into melee, ranged and survival. You get a skill point every time you level up. This happens often as you get XP from killing everything. There is a trophy for unlocking all 45 skills, but I got there naturally while doing everything else, so there was no need for post-game grinding. Then I rounded off my first 2 hours by learning about the abandoned Nero checkpoints and the Nero injectors that can be found in each one. There's one injector in each checkpoint that you come across. Use the injector and you can upgrade your health, stamina or focus. Focus acts like Batman's detective mode, and I'm not going to lie, it feels kind of forced. Yes, Deacon learns to track at the beginning of the game, but it soon evolves into being able to see enemies through walls and slow down time. It feels like all games need to implement this ability now, and to be honest, it really feels out of place here. Now at this point in my notes, I've written down that I was kind of bored and felt like I'd seen everything the game had to offer. Yes, it looked very pretty, and don't get me wrong, I liked the way the shooting felt, it's nice and weighty. But was I going to be clearing camps and sneaking around destroying freaker nests for the next 50 hours? Turns out, no. Well, you do have to do those things, but I hadn't accounted for two things yet. The story, which really doesn't get going until a few hours in, and Hordes. To find the aforementioned Nero injectors, you usually need to turn the power back on first at the Nero checkpoints by fueling up the nearby generator. The kicker to this is that if you don't disable the nearby speakers that are hooked up to an automated tannoy system before turning on the power, you'll attract all the nearby freakers, and this could include a horde. This is what happened to me. I'd only dealt with a few freakers at a time up to this point, but this was next level. The hordes are so intimidating. They leave you no time to think, they move so quickly and they just don't give up. Little did I know this was a small horde. They get bigger, a lot bigger. This one had about 30 freakers in it, the later ones have around 100. My tactic for taking this first horde out was clear. I needed to lure them towards the flammable liquid truck, which conveniently hadn't been pilfered yet, and blow it up. Unfortunately, the first time I did this, I stood a little bit too close. I needed to get them close to the truck while I wasn't. Luckily, I'd picked up something called an attractor. When you throw one of these, most, but not all of the freakers will run towards it as it emits a loud noise. Throwing one of these would group most of the freakers near it, allowing me to get out of the way and blow it up, and it worked like a charm. I just had 10 or so left to deal with. I used this tactic again, using one of the small explosive crates that was lying around. I knew I could blow it up because it was red. Red is video game language for boom boom. I took the last few stragglers out and I was done. I got the 1 down trophy for eliminating my first horde. After taking on my first horde, I really started feeling better about Days Gone. I was starting to notice all the little details the game has to offer. For instance, your bike uses fuel and you do have to refill it, either at a petrol station using a jerry can or at a friendly camp. I wondered whether I could actually save fuel by coasting down hills. Turns out yes, this works and the game actually advises you to do it. One of my favourite details is if you're in a firefight with some marauders and a larger threat comes along like freakers or even a bear, the marauders will divert their attention away from you and start attacking them. You are not the centre of the universe in this game. There are worse things than you out there. The world seems so organic and this kind of thing occurs quite often. You never know what's going to happen. I was trying to clear a camp and was taking cover at the entrance when I started to hear noises from behind me. Turns out all that noise from the gunfire had attracted a nearby horde, which just overran the camp and killed everyone. After that, luring a bunch of freakers into a camp and watching the carnage that ensues became my new favourite thing to do. My initial 2-hour assessment of this game was wrong. Yes, you do need to clear out a lot of camps and freaker nests, but new elements are added along the way. Stronger freakers like bruisers, which take a hell of a lot of damage, begin to appear. The story really started to suck me in, especially when I got to the third camp, Iron Mike's. At the start I didn't really think too much of the main character, Deacon. He seemed like he was going to be another boring protagonist, but the fantastic voice work and facial animations of the characters really add depth to everyone you meet. Well, not everyone, the main characters at least.
Thank you so much for stopping. I was so dead. I was never getting out of there.
The way the characters talk to each other is really natural, with the uses of and in between words, like they're really thinking about what they're saying rather than just reciting lines. I was really starting to enjoy my time with Days Gone. All of the trophies were just unlocking naturally. I was just concentrating in one area at a time and varying what I did. I would do a bit of story, then I would clear a couple of camps, take down a horde or two, complete some side missions as they came up. I really wanted to know how the story ended, but I wanted to experience everything as well, and I didn't feel compelled to rush through the game, and I like it when a game does that. Even the collectibles are enjoyable in this game. Like I mentioned previously, you only need to find 75% of them. I actually think they did this because some of them are missable. For story reasons, I can't tell you which ones though. Just know you can still get 75% of them once the story has finished. I'll just mention quickly that there are 2 points of no return. Well, you can't go south and then you can't go north. It's weird. Just know at the end of the game there is a free roam, so you can do everything afterwards. The collectibles are really varied. Even the plants that you collect for crafting and selling count as a collectible. The leader of the first camp you go to, Copeland, has a radio broadcast, Radio Free Oregon. The broadcasts happen randomly throughout the story. They count as a collectible too. You don't even need to do anything to collect them, they just happen. So fast forward about 40 hours and by the time the story was done, I had almost all the trophies. I just had a few nests to clear, collectibles to find and level upgrades to get. You don't even need to take care of all the hordes in the game to get the platinum, but I wanted to do it anyway. I became a horde killing machine. If I have one recommendation for weapons to get in the game, it's the Chicago Chopper. You can't purchase it until later in the game, but once you have it you can just mow down freakers. It's so much fun that you'll just want to keep doing it. The last trophy I needed before I got the platinum was actually a really easy sounding one, Burnout Apocalypse, which is fusing nitro while drifting for 5 seconds. The reason this was the last one I needed is that you can't purchase level 3 nitrous until you reach level 3 trust with the final camp. Level 2 nitrous is available quite early on but cuts out just short of 5 seconds. I've actually made a separate video covering this trophy. And that's another thing, I only felt compelled to make 3 videos covering the game's trophies. Even one of those videos doesn't directly cover a trophy, it just shows the location of the ambush camps so that you can fully open the map up. Days Gone is a very simple yet enjoyable platinum and everything just comes together as you play through the game. I've done one of these types of videos for a game before, Bloodborne, and I didn't give the game a score. From now on though, I think I will. I'll first give a score on the difficulty of the platinum. This will be between bronze, which is the hardest, and platinum, which is one that everyone will be able to get. Then I'll give you my opinion on whether you should buy the game. These will range from wait for PS Plus, borrow it, get it on sale, or day one purchase. So for Days Gone, I'm going to award it a platinum, get it on sale. It took me about 50 hours to get the platinum, but there's literally no difficulty to it. Dying has no repercussions, and with late game guns and weapons, hordes just aren't a problem. As for the get it on sale rating, I think it's worth waiting to pick this one up. Let them iron out the bugs and maybe even wait for the free DLCs to start in June. I believe there are going to be weekly updates, so this could add quite a lot to the overall experience. All in all, I enjoyed Days Gone. I'm quite excited to see what they do with the IP in the future. There's a lot of potential here. Right, that's going to be it from me. Please do YouTube things, like, share, maybe even subscribe. If you've played Days Gone, leave me a comment and let me know what you think of it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.